Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Richard Sykes. Welcome to Conscious Conversations. I'm excited to have Niraj Naik on the call with me today. Today, we're going to dive into the topic, which is how you can turn your stress or suffering into strength. And this is something that I'm extremely passionate about because I've been through some difficult situations myself with my health, with my own suffering and adversity, and I was able to turn that into something very positive. And before I dive into that, I would like to introduce Niraj to the call because he's also been in a very difficult, challenging situation himself through his own health issues. I won't go too much into that. I'll let Niraj tell you about that himself. But for those of you who don't know much about Niraj, he's a former pharmacist who became slightly disillusioned with the industry and was going through some difficult health issues and decided to use his own experience and knowledge to help other people through his very successful websites, one of them the Renegade Pharmacist, and another program he's got running called the Alpha Healing System, which combines healthy eating, breathing, meditation, stretching, and he's having fantastic results with this, helping other people to not just change their health, but change their lives. So, Niraj, thanks for joining me. How are you doing?
All good. Thank you very much for that intro.
No worries, buddy. No worries. Nice to have you on the call.
Indeed.
I'm excited to dive into this topic with you, Niraj, like I said earlier, and because for those of you who don't know much about myself, I for 6 years had a chronic health issue, and I was working in the sales industry, and I became severely ill, and I was going to the doctors on a regular basis and being told that I should take many different types of prescription drugs like antidepressants that would alleviate some of the symptoms, but I knew I wasn't depressed and I wanted to get to the root cause of why I was ill. And I remember asking the doctor, well, why am I ill? And he said, well, I don't know. So at that point, I became quite disillusioned with that, with the system. Not saying it's all wrong, but for me, it wasn't working. And decided to take matters into my own hands and look for an alternative. The doctor actually told me as well that I would have this for the rest of my life, and that I used that really as fuel to make sure that I could change my life. So the 6-year health issue, the chronic fatigue, the adrenal fatigue, the very dark times turned into me finding my path. So my pain essentially guided me to my purpose. So this topic is based on not just my own suffering, but for everybody else out there that's going through hard times, not just with their health, but with maybe the current situations in many different countries. There's always something dramatic taking place. We're always being challenged in some kind of way. So I'm looking forward to dive into this just so that we can share what we've been through and what we've experienced with other people, so that hopefully you can find some kind of light in the darkness too. So Niraj, I'm excited to hear more about your own experiences, and I know briefly about the health issues that you experienced, but what was the actual change that you went through, and how did it begin?
So, yeah, my story is kind of it's a bit of a roller coaster ride. I've been through quite a few challenges in my life, mostly self-inflicted by my own decision making at the time. But basically, I first started off doing a degree in pharmacy, which I wasn't really that kind of keen on doing. It was something I kind of got pushed into doing by, it's like a, an Indian family sort of traditional thing. You either be a pharmacist or a doctor or a lawyer, something safe and secure. So, I didn't really know too much about pharmacy at the time, apart from the fact that my uncle was very, very rich and had loads of pharmacies. So it just seemed like the wise thing to do, like following his footsteps. But I was always into music. Music has always been my big passion. It's where I found a lot of peace. I used to get, actually, believe it or not, a lot of racism at school growing up. I was one of the only brown people in the year. That wasn't great. It was a stressful time for sure. But I found peace in the music. The music, it actually made me go away and focus more on that than wasting time doing stupid stuff with friends, right? Because playing around in football at school it wasn't really the thing that kind of added that much to my life. But so I got really into the music, and then actually that was a way for me to kind of make, to become cool at school as well, because I started making music people liked, and that got me in with people, and that definitely helped. But that was always a thing that I wanted to focus on and pursue as my passion. And university was mainly a means to an ends. A lot of people go to university. It's probably one of the most exciting times, but maybe one of the most stressful times in their life as well, because a lot of people don't realize what they're doing there in the first place. And nowadays in the UK, you got £9,000, I think it is, you have to pay every year. So you've got this looming debt at the end of it, and there's no job security at the end of it. So I actually did a vocational degree, which is quite I would say, if you're going to go to university now, it's a good idea to do a vocational thing rather than just hoping that there's going to be a job for you at the end of it. But I actually started a big music event at university, and it went on and became really successful for about 3 years. And I always thought that that's what I'll do. Just forget the degree. I'm going to be a DJ and I'm going to promote events, and this is it. This is my calling. And then everything went wrong. And it all happened in the middle of my finals. The club that I had my music event at got shut down because there was a shooting at another event, not my one, but another event. And that forced the council to shut the club down, which is really, obviously it's like, hold on a minute, I don't even have a say in this, you know what I mean? And so I got that whole event taken away from me, and I had to make a decision. Do I go back to try and salvage what I had by trying to find another venue and all that, or do I finish my finals? And I was right in the middle of my finals. And, think about it, been at university for 5 years, and to suddenly, quit in the middle of your finals, it's like, my parents were having a heart attack at the time, thinking I was going to do that. So I actually focused on the finals. I did the secure thing, focused on my finals. And by that point, kind of had a falling out with my business partner because he thought I was going to go back. He didn't feel the commitment. So I lost everything, even a friendship. And now I'm stuck in a pharmacy. And I was like, oh my God, why didn't I work at least once to see what this is like? And really, a pharmacy job is probably one of the most robotic, mundane things you can possibly do. And I was just thinking, what am I doing? What did I study, 5-6 years for to do this? Literally putting pills into bags and handing them out, putting labels on, doing about 1,000 labels a day. It's like, what am I doing here? This is just doesn't make sense. And so I'm quite a kind of if I find there's a problem with something, I like to try and fix it and solve it. And I just thought the healthcare industry is a joke. And it's not really a healthcare. It's not really, I always thought the meaning of healthcare is to make people well. But I used to see people every day going away with shopping bags full of drugs, just not getting better. like they seemed to be getting worse, and then they would have more side effects on the medication. It was just a mess. And this just made me feel really kind of just broken inside. Like, not only had I lost my business, I had no job satisfaction. I was working like a slave. And then I was like being like a robot, something that I'm just not good at. I can't follow instructions very well. And that's why, like, you know, when it comes to anything in life, it first you need to know yourself and what you're actually genuinely like, your type of character. Some people are very creative, and that's a completely different kind of career choice for somebody who's creative than somebody who is actually much more suited to things where they do traditional jobs, you know, like corporate jobs. Not everyone can hack it, right? And you've got to really find out what you're like. And I really couldn't hack the mundaneness, the robotic nature, lack of creativity of a pharmacy career. And I needed to do something about it. But for a long time, I kind of lost my hope. And I used to go out raving all the time. I used to do tons of drugs every weekend, drank copious amounts. I don't even know how I was still alive. On there were some days I wake up going, how, you know, what? Oh, I've got to go to work in an hour. Shit. Do you know what I mean? And it was crazy. It was seriously, this was like over a period of years. It wasn't even like just a few months of hedonism and madness. It was literally quite a long period of just, I didn't care if I lived or died, you know, seriously. I just lost everything. And I tried to do a few different businesses on the side and try and start a few new things. And I ended up losing even more money and getting more into debt. So that wasn't working. And then I just thought, right, I've got to find some job satisfaction or I'm going to go mad here, because all these other business things I'm trying to do is not working. I've got to try and make my life more bearable at work. And my friends at the time also dragged me kicking and screaming because they knew that I was going downhill to a Tony Robbins event. And I was like, what's this Tony Robbins guru nonsense? You serious? And I couldn't believe like I was getting dragged to this. But they were like, no. And actually one of my best friend, he actually bought me a ticket. So I had no choice. I had to go. So I went over and I was literally mind blown, completely and utterly mind blown by the whole experience. I just thought, this is what it's all about. This is it. This is a real community. This is like people want to make a difference. They're all people a bit like me, like creative, entrepreneurial, but they may have been stuck in situations which just didn't suit them. The environment didn't suit them. They couldn't thrive in that environment. And it really made me realize the power of environment to make a difference in who you are. And then on the last day, he talks all about health. And he talks all about like certain diet and food that can help you protect yourself against disease. And I was just like, what? Why do you know they not tell us this in pharmacies? What is going on? I never knew any of this. You know, I was like, holy crap, I'm eating Big Macs what am I doing that for? Do you know what I mean? It was like, it was a shock to the system, and I totally changed my lifestyle after that. You know, I really started to take more care of myself. And I thought, hold on a minute, what if I give this information to my patients? You know, and I came up with a way to do it, because you only have like 2 minutes with a patient in your pharmacy. It's so busy. So I wrote these healthy shopping lists for patients. So what would happen was you'd have 2 minutes with them, you go over the medication they're on, and I'd write them out. I'd say, hey, how about this? You know, as an alternative, I'd ask them the simple question, do you want to keep taking these drugs? You know, it's just simple, very simple. And pretty much 9 out of 10 times people would say, of course not, right? So I said, well, okay, well, have a think about this, right? And I'll give them this analogy. I'd say, if you imagine your body is a car, right? What happens when you put the wrong fuel into your engine of your car? Okay, say you've got a petrol engine, you put diesel into it, or the other way around, what happens? And most of the time, people have done that. I've done that. And the car, you've done it, right? The car starts chugging along and maybe breaks down, and you need to go to a mechanic, get it fixed. Maybe you need to get the engine repaired, or, you know, it's a bit of a mess cleaning it all up, right? So I said, well, imagine if your body is like a super powerful genius bioengine, right? What you've been doing all this time is been putting the wrong fuel into this super efficient bioengine. And they'll be like, okay, that gave them an analogy. So, right, and by fuel, I mean the things that you consume, okay? Not just food, but also information. Anything you take in through your senses, right, is the fuel to your body, to your life. So I started to tell them the simple things about, you know, like having more natural foods as opposed to factory-based processed foods. So at this point in time, I also had been studying a lot about sugar being the real cause of heart disease, not fats. And I actually started going totally against the grain of what the National Health Service and everyone's been led to be in the UK. I'm talking like 2007, all right? I'm telling people the opposite of what we've been told. The high-fat diet is what you want. You want to avoid things like gluten, and you want to cut down on sugar, and you want to avoid on factory-based foods that are filled with trans fats and artificial ingredients and all this stuff. It's the wrong fuel for your bodies. We're not designed to eat plastic, right? So I would say, like, here's like a shopping list for you that's specific for your what you've got. Here's links to some websites where you can make the recipes, and and I had to really engineer them into thinking the opposite of what they've been told, because I'm saying sugar is what causes heart disease, not fat, right? And they should eat more fat, and you should take these things, you know. And so it was, I didn't have long to do it, but those who actually went and did it actually got better dramatically within weeks. So I was like, wow, this is amazing. I was getting phone calls from doctors. I was getting phone calls from the patients. I got letters. I was like, this is amazing, right? And I'll give you one classic example. There's one guy who came into the pharmacy. He was relatively young. He was in his 50s, but he was on pretty much every single heart medication, like really high doses of the stuff as well. And statins at this time was like a big business for pharmaceuticals, right? So I was actually getting people off statins because I actually did a whole debunking of the whole statins industry and realized that most of it is a scam, and we've been misled about the benefits of statins. And that was another very controversial thing, because the doctors didn't know this, and I was re-educating doctors on this because so many patients would come with side effects from statins. So anyway, one classic example is this guy. He came in, he had side effects of statins. He was on super high doses. And, but when questioning him, he seemed to have like a relatively stress-free life. And he ate a fairly healthy diet. So I was like, what's going on here? This is strange. Then I asked him, like, what do you drink? And it turned out that he loved coffee. He would drink 15 cups of coffee a day with 3 spoonfuls of sugar in each cup, right? And I was like, you serious, man? How do you find the time to do that, right? So so I spoke to his doctor, and the doctor didn't know. I said, have you not even bothered to, you know, question, you know, like ask about his diet? Why is he consuming so many drinks? He goes, no, I didn't even think about that. So anyway, this guy came off a lot of the medications. He was all right as soon as he curbed in his coffee habit and swapped it for something a little bit less hectic, and got over his sugar addiction. Anyway, so that's just one example. There's so many people like that, right? Who come in every day, who may seem like they're okay, but they're on loads of medications, and there's a source of stress in their life, even though you may appear to not be stressed. So this is the thing with stress, right? It's one of those things that there's so many different sources, right? And it's very much dependent on who you are and your kind of attitude and perception to it as well. So, okay, so going through that journey led me to getting promoted to the head office of ASDA in the UK. I came up with a system of handing out shopping lists for patients based on my previous idea, but on their website. So people could get healthy shopping lists and everything would be mail ordered to them. And they love this concept. The reason I got headhunted is a funny story, is because I actually got fired from that previous job for mismanaging the pharmacy, because people stopped buying all the stuff and from the pharmacy. I was telling them how to make their own cough mixtures and cold remedies, and
Nice.
so they didn't like that, right? So anyway, I left that pharmacy, and then I wrote a job CV on Monster, saying all the reasons why I absolutely do not want to be a pharmacist, and it was completely slagging off the entire system. And I still got headhunted for a job as a pharmacist. So I was like, "Are you crazy? Did you read my CV?" And she goes, "No, actually, we need people like you to work." Asda are a very forward-thinking company, and I think you might have something there where you can get your ideas over to them, and they'll pay attention. So I went for this meeting, and they gave me this job offer that I couldn't refuse. It was amazing salary for the amount of hours I was doing, and in the end, the guy said, "Look, I really like your concept. I think you should enter this in-house competition we have, and you might get picked." So I actually ended up getting up to the head office. I was going to carry this thing out, and then what happened was, a director who took a shining to me, he left halfway through the project, and now I'm in this corporate madhouse filled with people that absolutely don't want me to be there, because firstly, I've come from nowhere, right? And that's like, the managers work hard to get there, right? I just popped in there, right, from under, just swooped through, and I got given this massive iMac, right, to work on, whereas everyone else got these crappy little PCs. I got this huge iMac, so I'm like the daddy, you know what I mean, with this stuff, and I'm like not really working that hard, going on coffee breaks whenever I want, and these guys are like working their butts off, do you know what I mean? And so they don't like me instantly for that. Secondly, they didn't like my ideas, my concepts, because if it was too renegade actually at the time. The director must have had this moment of moral madness where he thought Asda needs to become a moral company, but none of the managers wanted that, because they thought it would affect their bottom line if I'm re-educating people off unhealthy factory-based foods and things like that. So anyway, they actually watered my whole idea down to a point where it wasn't even worth doing it. And I just lost it. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, I've worked so hard to come up here. I'm now getting kind of a little bit bullied by people up here. I don't feel like I connect with anyone. And I'm also thinking, if this does carry on and I end up working in this head office, this was in Leeds, by the way, which I loved. Leeds was a wicked city, but the people there in this head office of Asda, not so much, right? And I felt sorry for them. And there's a few of them I bonded with who literally were living like they were in a battery farm, just sat down all day long, not really talking to anyone next to them, just glued to a computer screen, checking in, checking out. I was just like, oh, is this the life? What have I done? I've manifested a life that I don't really want. What have I done? But I just kept thinking, no, but it's for the better of humanity and mankind. And in the end, it got shelved anyway. So I was like, oh God, all of this I've just done for no reason. And then I got really sick with just stress, and I started to get the first signs of ulcerative colitis, where you basically bleed from your backside about 15 times, 20 times a day. I think I was like 20 to 30 times a day going to the toilet, man. It was insane. Wow. It was insane. I lost 3 stone in weight. I was housebound for 10 months. I was depressed. I was like, I gave up on everything that I'd done before. And I said to the healthcare service, you deal with me. I'm done. I've had enough. Right. And again, it was like I didn't care if I lived or died. And anyway, so what happened was, it got to a point where I saw my consultant, who was this just absolute overweight, a beast of a lady. Like, no offense, but she was really not the kind of a cornerstone of health or anything. But she's a consultant at a hospital for GI issues, and so now I'm like facing, having a camera up my colon with this huge lady doing it. I was like, oh, my life cannot get worse than this. This is it. This I've reached the lowest you can go. And anyway, so she tells me, so I asked her, I said, like, what about, you know, other things I can do apart from the drugs? And she basically said, well, so I said, what about diet? She said, no evidence that diet has any influence on this.
Wow.
I said, what about stress? You know, I've been very stressed out. This is what happened. There's no evidence that stress has any influence on autoimmune conditions. Another fat lie. And then I was like, okay, what else can I do? What about, like, you know, these alternative stuff, like, you know, yoga and meditation? Is that? She said, no evidence for any of those things. You just got to take the drugs. That's the only thing that's got proof. Just do that and you'll be okay. And if that doesn't work, we'll just take out your colon, last resort. I was like, oh,
Jesus Christ.
Nice one. Cheers. All right, cool. So anyway, at this point, I was just like, this is too much. And it did get to a point where I was now faced either having my colon removed or to be a guinea pig for a new drug that hadn't even been tested. So I was like, I'm not so sure I want to do any of those things. So that's when it was like I had to carve out another path for myself. And a close friend of our family, who's called Swami Ambikananda, she basically heard that I was very sick, and she took me in, and she basically said to me the basic fundamentals of Ayurveda, which is the Indian kind of science of healing. She basically, the fundamental is, look, most chronic illnesses are a result of a spiritual interference, a disturbance in your life, where your soul has gone off the path that it wishes to be on. Your soul's literally trying to escape your body because your body's not serving your soul anymore, if you know what I mean. Your mind and everything has gone out of sync, right? And she said, like, if you can get through this with your background, your knowledge, what you've done previously in the past, you would be an incredible role model for people who are sick. Because if you can now heal yourself, you know, I mean, imagine what you could do with that. So she said, look, really, what you've got is a gift. Yeah. This is a serious opportunity. You've been like struck by a lightning bolt, but this is an opportunity which many people don't get, unfortunately, or they never realize. And now you've just realized this, okay? And I was like, yeah, indeed, you're totally spot on. So what do I do? So anyway, so she gave me like some hacks, like some special ancient Indian yogic meditation hacks for learning how to tap into your autonomic nervous system and correct what's going wrong, right? So I learned some of these things, and I also went back to my previous thing about diet, nutrition, started following my own lifestyle changes, and I got really deep also on, I read a few books. So one of the best books out there is, everyone should check it out, even though it's really old. It's The Power of Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. And I read that he was also a pharmacist like me, but he went and he studied all of these ancient practices, like from Christianity through to Hinduism with Ayurveda and yoga. And he basically created this book, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, to talk about how you can use scientific prayers to reprogram your autonomic nervous system that's gone wrong and create healing effects. So I started getting really deep into that. And then I learned as well through Swamij again with the breathing techniques, how you can actually tap into your autonomic nervous system and rewire as well through getting into a special state through breath. Then I also learned about music, and I was like, wow, music can be healing. You know, and what I did was I actually started to watch a lot of really chilled, relaxing music on. I just kind of naturally migrated to it on YouTube, and I started listening to a lot of meditation music and spa music and relaxation stuff. And I discovered brainwave entrainment. And brainwave entrainment is this like technology, audio technology, which can use like rhythmical pulses to get you into trance-like states where, again, you can influence your autonomic nervous system, okay, and reprogram your unconscious mind. So everything was leading towards this like inner powerful healing that we have deep within our mind. Every practice seems to point in that direction, okay? And it even seemed to me that when you pray for healing, what you're doing is you're actually praying deep down to yourself, your own inner mind, your unconscious mind, and invoking kind of this like healing from within, using like language, right? Using words and language, and visualization techniques. So I was like thinking, wow, this is amazing. And I started to really start practicing it myself, and I started developing my own music. I got really creative again. And within literally, I would say a few months, even less than a couple of months, I was back in remission. I was like totally healed, right?
Wow.
Which was astonishing to everyone. Like my parents didn't believe me. Close friends of our family who are GPs and doctors, they were like, oh no, you're going to keep taking the drugs. You know, it might come back, it might come back. And I was like, no, I'm done. It's cool. And I haven't since. And maybe I've had a couple of relapses, but I know it's only been temporary for a couple of days max, but that's only because I've like partied like a rock star again at that time. So, and that's self-inflicted. So, but since then, I've never had the same anywhere near to what I had when I was really sick.
That's an amazing story, man.
Yeah,
absolutely amazing story. And I think it's great as well for anybody that either is watching this live or the recorded version that's going through any kind of health issue or difficult, even just a difficult situation. And I think the fantastic thing that you highlighted in your story is that what seems to be something extremely negative at the time can turn into something so beautiful. And when we are pushed into a corner by life and situations, we as people, when we suffer so much, we have no other choice but to start to investigate areas that we wouldn't have looked in before. And I think that's what's happening to so many people on the planet now as we're going into more of a conscious state. We're becoming more conscious as beings, that we are starting to look into other areas that we haven't looked in before, because we have no other option, because the health industry is not supporting our needs, because the environment that we're living isn't aligned with who we really are. And I think that this is a powerful thing that is happening to a lot of people. It happened to me. I know that I wouldn't be where I am now if it wasn't for my health issue. And I'm so grateful that it happened because of what I now know and how I can help other people. So it is fantastic how something that seems so negative can turn out to be something that's extremely positive.
Yeah. And I can just explain to you like a few kind of facts about stress and what stress is, just to give, because I think like to just have the understanding of what's going on and what stress really is. Absolutely. Stress is a very kind of misunderstood thing. Like, not many people really understand what stress is. Ask most doctors, even they don't really understand it fully, right? So what stress is it's some kind of disturbance, right? A force, a pressure. And that can come in the form of either physical, emotional, or chemical. Okay. And they found, like, you know, like, so one of the ways you can like measure stress is through blood pressure and your susceptibility to heart disease, right? They actually found that there's certain types of stress that's very, very harmful. Okay. Other types of stress, which is positive, it's known as eustress. Okay, so what we got to understand is what are the difference between what's good for you and what isn't good for you. So certain stress, like traumatic emotional events, like maybe you've had a divorce or you're doing a job that you really cannot stand. You feel isolated. Okay, so one of the key findings that they found was that people with the highest levels of high blood pressure and heart disease, okay, in the West, are people who come from cultures that have been isolated from their normal social environment. So ethnic minorities who have come here, immigrated, so Indians, South Indians who have come to England, who may have been kind of uprooted from where they were before, now having to integrate and fit in to a whole new culture, is actually an incredible amount of social stress, right? Also people who get bullied at work, like work kind of bullying is also another form of chronic stress. So that can lead to job dissatisfaction and things like that. And what happens is when you are put under some kind of emotional stress like that, your body, your mind, it perceives this as a danger. Okay, and you automatically switch on the sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic deals with fight or flight, and there's an axis known as the HPA axis, the hypothalamus pituitary axis, okay, adrenal axis, which can go and get malfunctioned. So for short bursts of stress, okay, it's actually fine. It's setting you up for a challenge, take on a challenge. Okay, that's normal. But when it's constant, chronic, happening for long periods of time, and we're not switching that stress off, because this is another fact. There's another guy called Robert Sapolsky, okay, who studied gorillas out in the wild and baboons, and he found that the animals in the wild, okay, they have an automatic switch off for stress. Humans don't. And we don't know how to switch stress off very easily. In fact, we can be like immersed in a sea of stress hormones, which are created when you go into this fight or flight mode for a long period of the day, long parts of the day. Okay, so this is the reason is because we have this emotional stress, which we find hard to let go of. Okay, that's why techniques like mindfulness, meditation are quite good for helping you switch off stress, okay, and become.
Well, I was just going to ask another question there, Niraj, because I think this is important. There is so many illnesses that are created through stress and the sympathetic nervous system being stuck on. And what do you see as some of the best ways to activate the parasympathetic nervous system and counteract the stress and go back into our natural state?
Yeah. So that's basically what I discovered, right? The off switch for stress. Okay. So I'll go into that in a minute, but there's a really good study, okay, by it's a TED talk actually by Kelly McGonigal, right? McGonigal, right? I really urge everyone to watch it. It's called Make Stress Your Friend, right? And she talks about perception of stress being one of the most important like markers of whether you're going to get affected by it negatively or positively. Okay. And so what they found was that those people who viewed stress as an opportunity, any stressful experience, or even if they're doing a job that they hate, but they just see it as a stepping stone for what they really want, and they can visualize the light at the end of the tunnel, and they see it with courage, okay, any stressful effect as courage, as in a turning point in their life, it actually creates vasodilation. So vasoconstrictions happens normally during the sympathetic nervous system switched on, right, which actually increases your heart rate. So your blood vessels shrink, like they go smaller like that. So your blood pressure goes up. That is what leads to all the problems with heart disease, high blood pressure, which then affects your kidneys, affects every single organ in the body, which then can lead to also immune conditions and things like that. Now, what they found was actually what happens is the opposite. It dilates when you view something with excitement and you kind of welcome the stress as a challenge, right? And that is huge news, right? Because that now means if you can change your perception, this is what I think why I had this switch, because my Swamiji said, look, what you've got is a gift. You've got you've got a challenge now to fix yourself, and if you can, everything will change for you. And I was like, whoa, suddenly the hope was there. And I think that is why, instead of like being all kind of cramped up and I'm gonna die, it was just like boom, a release. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Suddenly my heart opened out.
I think so many people as well, unfortunately, fall into victim mode because we always expect life to look a certain way, and we try to rearrange and engineer life to look how we think it should look. But when life throws us a curveball or a situation or a challenge comes our way, which they always do, we buckle and we fall under like tremendous amounts of stress. And like you said, purely because of the way we perceive what's happening. And something as simple as a change in our perception can alter not just the way we feel, but also the reality that we're living in.
Yes, completely. It's what we focus on is what we get. Okay, it's like what we focus on the most, where attention goes, energy flows. So we literally got to figure out a way to be able to change our perception of our stressful event, an event in our life. And these techniques that I've learned are some of the most powerful ways of allowing you to do that.
So what would you say, I mean, just to share maybe one or two of these techniques, just that, not to help somebody overcome maybe a deep and long term health issue. Maybe this will help them, I don't know. But let's say for more of a maintenance that can pull somebody out of a health issue, and also they can embody consistently to live by, so that they're not always going to be hit and slapped around the face by life and then fall back into the old health issues. What kind of
okay.
Yeah.
So aside from like being able to change your perception of your event as a stepping stone to greater things, right? There are like some daily rituals that I like to do, which will bulletproof you against stress. Okay, especially from the physical, even the emotional. It helps release the emotions, but definitely from like the general physical stress that we get on a day-to-day basis. You know, we're bombarded by all sorts of things like radio waves, EMFs, just even the food that we eat and drink. We need a way to detox ourselves both physically and spiritually, right? This I call my purification process. This is what I do religiously, and it works like magic, okay? It's a combination of using breath work, okay? So breathing is actually a fast track to switching off stress, okay? Our breathing controls our thoughts. They directly influence each other, right? Our thoughts and our minds influence our breathing also influences our thoughts, okay? So one thing that is actually automatic, but we also have conscious control over, so we can consciously control our breath, right? I recently hung out with a guy called Wim Hof, spent 2 weeks at his house. Wim Hof's like the superhuman dude. He climbed up Everest in his shorts. Yeah, the Iceman. You know, he's actually been proven under scientific study to be able to control his autonomic nervous system at will, right? And we got on really well because I learned very similar techniques that he uses to create like superhuman strength. I use them to help you reduce stress, right, and become more spiritually cleansed, right? So we had like a lot in common, and we did a lot of music together and all this stuff. And it confirmed to me that the breath, because big part of what he does is breathing, right, is so powerful and so misunderstood. So basically what I do is a combination of breath work, right? And I'll explain to you why that works in a minute. And then using the sauna. And sauna is like one of the most incredible like human inventions in my opinion, because the sauna has a multitude of benefits, okay? So you get heat stress in a sauna, heat shock. When you get heat shock, which means you get an intense amount of heat for a short period of time, right? So the same goes for cold. So Wim's all about the ice, right? That's why it's called the Iceman. It also has a positive stress response, okay? And the heat is the other extreme. So in the ancient cultures, they used to do a combination of like, if you go to Scandinavia, hot and cold therapy. I do it as well, but we do ice cold plunge pools, right? So what I like to do is use the sauna, and the reason why is just this is actual fact. Just using the sauna for 20-minute intense period, then having a break for 30 minutes and then coming back doing another 20 minutes was shown. That's literally just sitting there, right? Not doing anything else, but just sitting in the sauna, right? To give you a 3-fold increase in growth hormone the next day. And growth hormones associated with anti-aging, with a healthy immune system, making sure you look younger and feel younger, right? And growth hormone levels decrease as you get older. So this is a way to actually look younger and reverse aging, because you boost growth hormones so much, all right? Another thing about the sauna is they studied 2,800 Finnish men over a long period of time, and they found, right, that there was I think it was a 30% reduction in overall mortality rates. So basically, it makes you live longer, right?
Wow.
Lower risk of death, of heart disease and early death. The more you, in fact, that's the more regularly you use a sauna, the higher that goes up, right? That's so amazing. Yeah, it's amazing facts, right?
What you're saying is essentially that there's, I think you said it earlier, actually, there's positive stress, healthy stress. And I did the 10-week Wim Hof challenge, and I must admit the saunas sound way more appealing than having to take a cold shower every morning, because I was dreading it. Every time I got up, I loved the breathing, I loved the stretching, but then the cold showers, I was like, oh God, this sucks ass, man. I don't want a cold shower. But I have to admit, after the 10 weeks, I felt amazing. And I still now every morning, I do the breathing, I do the yoga, and I love that because it creates so much presence and calm and peace. So I absolutely, I'm totally on board with that. And
So the reason why it works again is a positive stress response. So what that means is that your body responds to that stress that it's having for a short period of time in a positive way. So it creates these heat shock proteins, or in cold, there'll be these cold shock proteins, and your body adapts. It goes into adaptive mode, and it switches on a survival mode, which actually positively influences your overall health, right? The other thing with a sauna is it makes you sweat a lot, right? And if you use certain supplements like niacin, for example, which is vitamin B3, in conjunction with the sauna, you actually rapidly release heavy metals, toxins that are stored in your fat tissues, in your cells, okay? The more stress you get, the more fat you put on, because the more crap that's built up in your system has to go somewhere, and it gets stored in fat cells. So your body produces more fat to store the toxins, okay? Because they can't easily come out of your body. So the more you use things like sauna and use like nutrition, all right, you can dislodge all of the toxins from your system and sweat it all out. Okay, so like things like BPA, toxic metals, all these things will come out of your sweat during the sauna period. Okay, so that's another beautiful benefit of it. All right. So, and then also it's like a workout. So the sauna actually raises your heart rate, gives you like a cardio workout all at the same time. So what I like to do though in the sauna is to combine meditation in the sauna, right? So this breathing technique, which I'll share with you, is super powerful. All right, there was this doctor called Dr. Buteyko. He's this Russian doctor. Okay, I urge everyone to check him out. And he actually was suffering from seriously bad high blood pressure, and he needed to do something dramatic about it. And nothing was working, blah blah, you know. So he was actually the guy responsible for putting the right air conditions in space shuttles and also deep sea submarines and things like that. So he really understood the ratio of carbon dioxide and oxygen. Okay, so what he actually found was that there was a relationship between how long we can hold our breath for and our propensity to get disease, right? So if you can do a quick test, okay, to see if you were to just breathe in normally and then breathe all the air out, close your nose, and time how long you can hold your breath for. If you can hold your breath for comfortably for about 30 seconds, okay, it means, and plus, means you're healthy. The moment you get an urge, like real strong urge to breathe again, okay, that's the end of the pause, all right? And if it's less than 30 seconds, like 20 seconds, maybe 15 seconds, it means you've got issues. You've got health issues, right? So there's something you need to do about it. Don't pass out there, man.
I'm just thinking as well, people on call now heard that part of it. They're like, shit, I need to go to the doctor quick.
Yeah, no, but it made a lot of sense, right? So,
I suppose as well, you see people that look relatively unhealthy and they always seem out of breath, so it makes complete sense.
Because they're breathing, they're over-breathing, they're hyperventilating. Okay?
Yeah.
What that means is that you're not very efficient at metabolizing oxygen. Okay, you're not getting the oxygen into your cells. Okay, this is what you need to get oxygen into your cells. We've been misled, right? We've been told that we should be deep breathing, we should be doing all this stuff. It's actually the opposite. We need to actually raise carbon dioxide levels, and that when you raise carbon dioxide levels in your blood and your lungs, the oxygen can diffuse. Okay, if it's basic kind of chemistry. Okay, the air moves from high concentration to low, right? To feel it's like diffusion gradient. Okay, so when you raise carbon dioxide levels, okay, it means the oxygen can come off your blood cells and go into your tissue cells because it creates a concentration gradient, right? Because the air tries to diffuse to feel that, where it's in a low concentration. Okay, so the Wim Hof method, okay, it's all about breathing,
taking in a lot of oxygen.
Yeah, you're taking in loads of oxygen, okay, into your system, and then what you're doing is you're holding your breath for a long period of time. So when you're holding your breath for a long period of time, you're raising that carbon dioxide level so that all of that oxygen you're taking in rushes into your cells, right? Now, people like Sherpas who climb up big mountains and live in high altitudes, they have naturally got a lot of stamina and they have a less risk of metabolic diseases. People who live high altitudes, okay? That's because they're surrounded by more carbon dioxide and they become more efficient at burning oxygen. Now, when we're hyperventilating, we're over breathing. And right now I'm talking a lot, right? What's happening is I'm getting out loads of air, not really taking it in. I'm over breathing. And what's happening is that we're actually getting rid of all that carbon dioxide. We've got this, we've always got lots of oxygen around, by the way, okay? It's not like we don't have enough oxygen. It's what we don't have enough of is the carbon dioxide. And what's going on is the oxygen isn't going into the cells where it's needed. So therefore, you're getting oxygen deprived, you're getting sick. And that is why the Buteyko method, he's got his own method, is so powerful. It teaches you how to extend your breath, okay? And Wim Hof's thing is all about learning to hold your breath for long periods of time, getting in the hyperoxygenating, holding your breath for long periods of time. My technique's the same. It's all about extending your breath, right? So here's one way of just instantly switching off stress, okay? And what it means is it's called the extended exhalation. What you do is you breathe in for a shorter time than you breathe out, okay? So here's the cycle. So you breathe in for about 4 seconds, okay? From your belly. So you imagine you've got nostrils in your belly and you're breathing in through your belly. So you're really filling up all the air in your lungs. And then when you get to the top, you gradually breathe out slowly for about 8 seconds, okay? And then you hold your breath, okay, for about 2 seconds. Hold your breath with your neck down for about 2 seconds and then repeat the cycle. And what you want to do is you want to actually gradually increase the length of time you hold your breath out for. So from 2 seconds, you can double it to 4, then to 6, then you can add 8 seconds to the point where you're holding your breath for long periods of time. That will train your body to be able to handle living in low oxygen environments, okay, and become more efficient at burning oxygen and to raise your inner carbon dioxide levels so you become more efficient at absorbing oxygen. So this is what pranayama is all about, okay? Pranayama was the study of breath work, the science of breath work. It's a branch of yoga. It's all about the breath. And pranayama, prana means energy. And yama is like control. So it's energy control, life force control, another thing. Okay. And so this is a really simple technique to supercharge your system with oxygen and to also like raise your carbon dioxide levels. And this, you do this in the morning, this will help you reduce stress as well. Okay, by getting more oxygen in.
Absolutely,
right?
man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was just going to jump in quickly and say that it's interesting how many different techniques there are regarding breathing, and they work. I mean, I dived into rebirthing sessions when I was in Koh Phangan. I was doing that, and I had some of the most profound experiences I've ever had. And you know, I didn't take any drugs to do it either, so it was free. And some of these ceremonies that we were in, there were people that were going there and turning into children again on the floor, and it was like their breathing was and the prana they were bringing in it was going to parts of their body, parts of their being that it was like extracting old unresolved emotions, bringing them to the surface, and then like purging them out. So like the grown men crying like children again. So I absolutely agree 100% that breathing is profoundly healing. And I mean, it's been around for thousands of years too, like you said, the pranayama yoga and a lot of the spiritual teachings now are teaching, you know, even just simple meditations, focus on your breath. So just this alone, being able to embody this and integrate this into our lives can absolutely, I think, enable us to withstand any kind of stress.
So a lot of stress is actually trapped negative emotions. Okay. And like a lot of it's actually very common, chronic back pain. So chronic back pain that has no kind of like obvious cause, and it goes on for long periods of time. You tried everything, it still doesn't go away, is usually a result of a negative emotion that's trapped. All right, because our muscles have like emotional memory. It's crazy. Okay, and there's a doctor called Dr. Sarno. He wrote a book called Healing Back Pain. If you read it, it's literally telling you how to release emotions. Okay, trapped emotions. Brilliant stuff. Great book. If you go onto YouTube and type in Dr. Sarno and Howard Stern, there's Howard Stern, who's that radio presenter, just basically worshipping him like he's Jesus in the interview. It's so funny because he's just cured his back pain that he's had for years, could never get rid of, and it's because this emotional this release it has not been released.
Well, I just want to say quickly as well, Niraj, that working with people using EFT tapping as well, which is to release unresolved emotions, I found that the lower back was generally linked to a lack of support and an emotional experience somewhere in the past that a person felt that they weren't being supported. And it's funny because of the metaphysical side of things. When you look at this and you think, when somebody is going through quite a stressful situation in life, and stress and pressure usually comes down from here, and that's why people get tense in the shoulders and the neck, and the weakest part of the body is the lower back. So when a person isn't being supported around that part of the body, it will go. And that's the funny side of emotions, and how people don't really realize how a situation and an emotion can affect a certain part of the body. So yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. So EFT, it's definitely one for reducing, releasing those trapped emotions. The breathing, breath work, so rebirthing. So what happens during that is, as you're saying, we're changing the current, electrical current flow in the body, right? We're actually changing. So current, like if you look at a battery, the way it works is like an acid alkaline battery, is the opposites of polarity.
Positive and negative, yeah.
So we're actually, when we're breathing in lots of oxygen, we're actually changing the pH of our blood. The only thing that can actually influence our blood pH is not diet. Does not influence it. Anyone who says the acid alkaline balance and all that stuff is real, it's not. It's BS. Actually, there's other reasons why food nourishes, and alkalizing food, which they call alkalizing, nourishes the body. But it's nothing to do with changing the pH. Okay, it doesn't do that. The only thing that can influence the pH is oxygen and carbon dioxide ratios.
Right? Interesting.
And our blood is always like very, very powerful, very, very good at fine-tuning our pH. So it's always the same. If it moves even a little bit, we can die. Okay. So what's happening is we're actually getting in so much oxygen, we're changing the pH of the blood. It's becoming more alkaline, and we're getting something known as they call it hypoxia, I think it is. What's happening is we're actually switching the pH of the blood, and we're creating like an electrical flow, because there's more of a gradient now between oxygen and carbon dioxide, and we're creating like an electric flow. So when you're doing rebirthing, you'll find your hands are like spasms, and you might feel tingles, and this is mad energy going through you, right? And it's literally what it is. It's prana flowing through you, and for some people it will go straight to where they were most vulnerable, and it creates like a reset, a rebirth, right? Reason for that could be as well that you're literally almost making your body think you're about to die, because you're changing the pH out of control, right? So you're like, it's a rebirth. You're literally dying and being reborn. You're not actually going to die, because your body will never allow it, but you are actually switching the pH, voluntarily switching the pH, which is actually not meant to be possible to do, but you're doing it. You're going, you're kind of moving, counteracting against the system of your own physiology, and this creates a reset, right? And then what happens with rebirthing is that you don't even feel like breathing. You may not even take a breath for ages, right? Okay, same with holotropic breath work, my breathing techniques with the music and chanting, Wim Hof method. You literally can hold your breath for long periods of time. So in pranayama, there's a breathing technique called Bhastrika, right? Where you basically literally pull the prana out of the air. It's just like the Wim Hof thing, where you're doing cyclical breathing. You're going, right? And you're doing that for a few minutes, and then you hold your breath for as long as you can. So it's just like the Wim Hof method. And it's like the rebirthing is for a long period of time. Same thing. You do that for long enough, right? You're going to get lightheaded. You're going to have this awakening, and the energy is just going to go into cells of your body. You're going to have to hold your breath for long periods. That corrects the carbon dioxide ratio, so you don't actually die, and your pH goes back to normal. And that stress, it's a positive stress, creates this huge awakening experience. There's only a few other things that do this, okay, in such a profound way, and they've been proven now scientifically, because what's happening is you're releasing massive amounts of DMT in rebirthing and the extended Bhastrika, holotropic breathwork, these things, okay. When I was with Wim, we produced this music, and he was chanting like a native Indian shaman over this music whilst we were like doing this like thing like for about an hour. It was nuts, man. It was nuts. It was just like kind of like emceeing with a drum, like, getting us totally out into this whole altered state of reality. And what you're doing is you're producing massive amounts of DMT at the same time, okay? And there's only a few other things that alters consciousness like that, and that's psychedelics. So they found, ayahuasca and mushrooms, anything that alters our perception in such a profound way like that, are amazing at releasing negative trapped emotions. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why ayahuasca works, because it kind of turns you inside out, and it puts you face to face with your unconscious mind, which is the seat of where all these emotions are. and it makes you learn about each one of them. And once you're aware, awareness is there, you can let it go, right? So it's all about letting go.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then you purge and you shit your pants, and then it's like it's like a great night out, isn't it?
Yeah, it's perfect, man.
I was just going to say, Niraj, because we've already had an hour talking, man, and it's absolutely flown by, and I could sit here and listen to you speak all day. You're a fountain of knowledge, man. It's amazing. What I've done is I've posted the link to your Alpha Healing system on the chat so people can check it out, because I think that obviously this call is kind of developed and gone on its own, gone in the way that it needed to, and I think that breathing, without a doubt, has been the core of this call, and stress. You know, for those that are watching and are looking for ways to heal or to maintain a healthy lifestyle, without a doubt, breathing, looking at Niraj's method, and I'll put a link on the recorded video too, checking out the Wim Hof method, rebirthing, any kind of breathing, without a shadow of a doubt works. And you know, when you look at stress, and it's the biggest killer on the planet, it suppresses the immune system, which is there to keep us alive and keep us healthy, so that disease can thrive and live. And now, obviously, I've learned so much from this call myself, and I'm already doing the breathing anyway. As Niraj has been saying, breathing can detox and really just help get our bodies back in alignment and just be healthy and not have to wait until we unfortunately seriously ill. And that's what I wanted to finish on, Niraj, is we have a few questions as well, is that obviously me and you have been through difficult and dark times that have acted as a catalyst for change for us. But not everybody has to go through that. You don't have to wait until the shit hits the fan and your health is, slowly swirling down the toilet. You can start to make changes now and empower yourself, empower your life through maintaining a healthy lifestyle and changing some habits. It might be some, lifestyle habits that you have, so that you can use what's already happened to create strength in your life. So there was one question from Olivia that says, what did you say about mushrooms?
What did I say about
that? I think he was talking about psilocybin and DMT and being able to open a portal so that we are able to see, the subconscious and maybe the trapped emotions. And I think it was kind of down that path he was going with this.
Yeah, well, mushrooms have been used ritually for thousands of years. It's been part of the culture of, mankind for so long. But they've been suppressed, okay? And there's a reason why they've been suppressed, because they are the route to another world, which I firmly believe and vouch for. And they give you empowerment. They've been shown now to increase your brain cells, create better, stronger neurons, changes your perception, makes you more creative. It could even be hypothesized that it was when we started eating mushrooms that the greatest evolution took place, like language and creation of language and things like that. So mushrooms are a way, as any psychedelics, to get in touch with your unconscious mind and release as well negative emotions.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. Yeah.
Mushrooms have been shown now for alcoholics to give up alcohol addictions, and all sorts of addictions. So I'm a big kind of fan of venturing into these other worlds and looking at psychedelics and things like that as actual clinical tools. I don't think that they should be feared. They should be embraced, and more research should be done.
Well, I even read a study, a really interesting study that was done in the 60s and 70s when the hippie movement was happening, and they saw that how many people were living these extraordinary lifestyles, and they start to investigate. And it was actually the US government that put a lot of money into researching psilocybin and mushrooms, and they started to administer, and prescribe cancer patients with like psilocybin, and they'd study them, and they would monitor their fear of death. And these people that had cancer were terminal. They were going to die. Some of them had only been given like 1 month to live. And by taking psilocybin, they were able to face their fear, see not only where the fear was coming from, but why the fear was there in the first place. And there were some miraculous turnarounds that they didn't expect. That not only did a lot of these patients completely eradicate their fear of death, but some of them, the actual tumors started to reverse and heal. So without a shadow of a doubt, I agree that mushrooms and psychedelics, as taboo as a subject it can be nowadays, and there's so many stigmas attached to them, I think we can completely open our minds and shatter the conditioning that we've had layered upon us, and really start to see things for what they are. Because, you know, mushrooms do help us see in a different way. Psychedelics can help us look in a different way. And I honestly think that, you know, the earth is giving us these little mushrooms to help us expand our consciousness and to move on to the other level.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. But
well, I was just going to sit in there. I'm sorry that I think we might have to start wrapping this up now, because I said it would be 1 hour. We've been 1 hour and 10 minutes, but there was one more question from Sue. She asked, as they're still giving out the health information.
I think they are giving out a very watered down version of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, if there's any more questions.
I've lost your sound.
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello, I can hear you, mate. I'll just keep going.
Yeah, you're back.
If there's anybody that's got any more, if anybody's got any more questions before we wrap this up, please fire away now. But I just want to kind of wrap this up with you now, Niraj. And if there's anything else you want to add to this, I've been making notes myself. You know, there's so much information, and you've got so much to give. And I think it's great that you are living, you know, the life that you are, and the path that you've chosen from this, you know, this struggle. And I think it's great to see, really, it might sound strange saying this, how many people are having are being affected by these difficult situations, and to travel and to meet people and to see how many people are now on the same path, where they've become disillusioned with life, society, their environment, what they're being told, how they think they should live, the conditioning, the social conditioning, that they're sick of it, and the stress, and they've detached, and the searching, and so many people are searching for answers. And you don't have to go traveling. You just have to ask questions and question what you're being told, and just be able to see beyond the situation and the negative reaction that you usually have towards it. Niraj, is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, because I'll go back to what I was saying before about the number one cause of stress is probably social dislocation, where you don't feel like you fit in.
Yeah.
Right. So this is why I stress the importance of finding a community, joining a mastermind group, finding your tribe, or creating your own tribe. Like they're probably the most important things that we could do for our health right now, is to get in, because we become our environment. If we're in a negative, toxic environment most of the day, like our job, maybe it's time to find one that is more empowering. And it's also really, really important as well to understand what it is that you really want. Okay, it may not be that when you. So there's one exercise that I do. It's called the average perfect day, and it basically teaches you like to figure out. And maybe I'll share it in the event. The exercise, I shot it on the beach in Koh Phangan. It's a fun exercise to go through, and it basically gives you like a different way of looking at what you really want. And if you basically will find maybe that you don't actually need a lot of money each month to live your perfect version of reality, what it really is. Because when you strip away it to the essence, you may not need that huge house. You know, you may not want all these material possessions. You may want more simple things, and more of what the one thing we can't get back, which is time. Okay, so you know you got to value, like, what do you value more? Time, money, you know, possessions. What do you value, or do you want to be able to spend more time around friends and family? Right? I know I'd rather do that, and I don't need a lot to be happy. You know, so I can live in a simple place in Copenhagen, but I'm surrounded by such an amazing tribe of people, and it's just a great way to live, right? Whereas in the UK, it's not so easy to find that. So
yeah,
I urge people to really start looking in terms of what is it they really want, what's the environment they really want to be around, and start visualizing that and post it up and picture it and see it every day. This is the kind of place I want to be, and your mind will migrate you towards it. Okay, you might find that there's meetup groups, meetup.com, with like-minded tribes on there. There may be, you know, social events at your town hall or whatever, or work. You know, Facebook groups, right? I'm forming my own mastermind. I'm forming a group as well, and we're going to be doing retreats in places like Costa Rica, Copenhagen, Austria. We're just putting it all together at the moment. Which is going to be super exciting. So we'll have like a community, you know, and in my tribe already, we've got amazing musicians, like artists, you know, all scientists, filmmakers. We've got a whole spectrum of people, all co-creating a vision that's greater than ourselves, right? And we're all part of a mission. And when you're mission driven, okay, it's very hard for stress to affect you because you're driven by purpose, right? And you'll do the things you need to avoid stress. Okay, you'll choose better lifestyle choices. You'll you know, you'll take more care of yourself, and you'll have this optimistic view of the world rather than negative. If you form a clear vision for the reality that you want and set a mission to achieve it, right, you'll get vasodilation rather than constriction, and stress will then become your friend. So beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful. It, man.
Well, I think that's a great way to wrap this up, that, you know, make stress your friend rather than, you know, have it just destroy your life. So without a doubt, and I was just going to say as well, adding to what you were saying there at the end, really beautifully put, that we're all in this together. You know, whatever's happening, we can all group up and, you know, get through it together in community, you know, without a shadow of a doubt is extremely important. And there's some beautiful comments coming through. Sue just said, it's great what you're doing, Niraj, and you're going to help so many people. Thank you. Kasha said, thank you. Fascinating. So, yeah, and thank you as well from me, Niraj. It's been a pleasure to have you dive into this conscious conversation, and let's hope more people tune into this from the recorded version too. And those who are watching the recorded version, you can, you know, give us a thumbs up if you like the video, and you can subscribe to this channel. And yeah, good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, Niraj, again. Yeah, it was a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure for me as well. Awesome.
Yeah, you take care, brother.
Peace.
Thanks. Bye-bye.